Joining us now on the line via Skype from Greenville, South Carolina, David Wilkins, U.S. Ambassador to Canada from 2005 to 2009. And let me steal one of your lines, Mr. Ambassador, by saying bonjour, y'all.
I like your accent. Very good.
I'm working on it. Mr. Ambassador, tell us this. Before your appointment to Canada, how much did you actually know about the place?
Well, I didn't know a lot about it. I'd been there once before with my wife, but you know, when I first got there, of course, I was some of the questions was, you don't know anything about us, and I said, you're right, but I'm going to learn about you, and I'm going to work hard to develop a real understanding of Canada. And so when I got there, I hit the road and I traveled, and I went to all 10 provinces and 3 territories. Within 6 months, I went to the big towns and the little towns, and I met thousands of Canadians, and I really, I think, bonded with Canadians and really have a great appreciation for Canadians, and I'm still your biggest fan.
I will ask you more about that in a second, but if memory serves, I think the one time you had been to Canada before you were ambassador was 3 decades earlier when you were with the U.S. Army Reserve. Is that right?
Well, I was in the U.S. Army. I was a young lieutenant out of law school, married about 3 months, and Susan and I took a long weekend and went to Niagara Falls for the weekend.
And that was it?
That was it.
No kidding. So after the 3.5 years that you were in Ottawa, obviously home base was Ottawa, but you did see a great deal of the country. How did your impression of the country change after having spent all that time and seen every jurisdiction within this place?
Well, my appreciation of Canada grew every day I was in Canada. I mean, I think of Canada, and I think of, you know, cold weather and warm hearts, very friendly people, industrious people, the best friends the United States have and will ever have, a great ally, a great trading partner. And like I said, I traveled all over Canada, and I met people from all walks of life, and in the small towns like Chitwood and Red Deer and you name it, and certainly on the Atlantic coast, I went there a lot too. And I just developed a great appreciation for Canada. I was blessed to serve as ambassador in Canada. Canada was the country I asked President Bush for. I turned down several others before I was given Canada as an ambassadorship, and I was blessed to be there.
Now, when you were here, you had to follow Canadian politics. Surely you don't follow Canadian politics anymore, do you?
I keep up with you guys. I still get some of the news briefers. I follow your news. I sure do, and I get to Canada quite a bit now on business. I'm on a couple of boards, so I keep up with you guys because I miss you. So I do keep up with you.
Okay, tell us this then. I mean, you are a conservative Republican, fair to say. So do we assume that you were pleased when you found out back in May that Stephen Harper had won a majority government?
Well, if I was still wearing my ambassadorship cap, I would tell you that whatever the Canadians do suits me fine, and they make the decision. I still believe that, but I do think I think it's good. I think you can get more things done, obviously, in a majority government. So yeah, I was pleased to see that, and I think he's done an excellent job.
I wonder whether when you were dealing in Washington with the Canada file, and you had to either brief the president or meet with senior officials in his administration, was the general thrust of the discussions around Canada, these folks are okay and decent to deal with, or they're really a giant-sized pain in the butt? Which came closer to being more accurate?
I'd fallen totally in the first camp. I had many conversations with the president about Canada being such a great ally, about being our best friend, and that we need to reach out to them, and you know, whether it be when the border was closed to Canadian cattle, or when we had a lot of litigation on softwood lumber. I felt like we needed to do everything we could to resolve our differences because Canada was such a great friend, and you know, we saw that time and time again, certainly on the war on terror. I visited the Canadian troops in Afghanistan in December of '07. So President Bush had a great appreciation for what Canada was doing.
But I'm guessing here the conservative end of the Republican Party and the conservative end of the Conservative Party of Canada, those aren't the same conservatives. I think probably your conservatives would look at our conservatives as being too squishy. Was that a source of any tension?
Not at all. I got along great with the Canadian people, whether they consider themselves a liberal or conservative or an NDP. I found that they would listen to you. I just got along fine. I never had a problem that I thought was based on partisanship or politics. you know, we're all after the same thing. The bottom line, they want to live a good life and appreciate their friends, and we do too. And we certainly appreciate Canada.
Okay, we know that Americans tend not to think about Canadians much at all, and I think most of us are content with that because usually when America thinks a lot about another country, it's not necessarily a good thing. So, having said that, when they do think of us, you having experienced so much time with us, what's the most egregious misconception you find Americans have about Canadians?
Oh, I don't know. I guess they think it's always cold, and obviously it's not always cold in Canada. You have glorious summers. I used to say that I think Canadians think they know everything about the United States, and they don't. And Americans think they know enough about Canada, and they don't. And you're right. I think you generally know more about us than we know about you. You get our media, you get our sports, you get our politics a lot more than we get yours. But I think that's changed some in the last couple of years with the issue of rising gas prices here and the issue of energy security and independence on the United States. I think there's more of a realization in the United States that Canada is very important to us and that Canada provides energy to the United States and is an integral part of energy security for North America.
Let me go through a few more Canadian characteristics, and I want to get your reaction to them. We Canadians like to think of ourselves as being, as George Bush the father said, a kinder, gentler nation. We say sorry when someone steps on our foot. How do you explain that to Americans?
I would say that the Canadians are very polite and probably politer than we are in many instances. I did find that they're very polite, and they tend not to raise controversy, and even when there's a disagreement, they do it in a very agreeable fashion.
How about aloofness? Did you ever find Canadians to be too aloof?
I did not. I felt like I connected with Canadians and they connected with me. It may be because they couldn't understand me very well, or they liked my southern drawl or whatever it was, but I certainly felt that they always reached out to me and were warm and friendly.
How about Canadians as a more communitarian place as opposed to America, which seems to be a more individualistic place? Did you find that stereotype to be true?
I didn't. I certainly think there are a lot of similarities there. I would never say that Canadians are like Americans or Americans like Canadians, but I didn't find a big difference in that at all.
Okay. When you think back on your years in Canada, you know, I'm sure you've been asked this 1,000 times, but when someone says Canada to you, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about your time here?
Well, I really think about the warm, friendly people that we met all over Canada, and that stands out. And we developed a lot of strong friendships that we still keep up with. Send Christmas cards to people, receive Christmas cards, talk on the phone occasionally. That stands out, the friendships we develop. But then there are obviously certain experiences, whether it be petting a live Canadian polar bear on the head at Churchill with then Premier Dewar, or riding in the back of an F-18 out of Cole Harbor, or visiting Canadian troops in Kandahar. I mean, those are experiences I will remember and keep the rest of my life.
We are often under the assumption that the ambassador spends, you know, the vast majority of his time hanging out in the corridors of power and dealing with other ambassadors, prime ministers, cabinet ministers, and so on. So I want to get away from that for a second, and I want to just sort of explore a little more about those magic moments that you might have had in the country. What was a moment that you experienced as an ambassador that really surprised you by its either heartwarming nature or it touched you in a way you did not expect?
Well, I'd been there about 6 months, and I was speaking at a synagogue in Ottawa, and I met an individual that came up to me and showed me the tattoo on his arm. He'd been liberated from Auschwitz in 1945 by American soldiers, and he told me how much he appreciated the United States, and he and I actually and his wife developed a strong friendship after that. But that was heartwarming. Being with the Canadian soldiers in the outposts, forward observation posts in Kandahar on Christmas Eve, and walking around the different guard posts with General Hilliard and Peter MacKay is a very dramatic experience of mine and touched my heart, and seeing the humanitarian aid of Canadians and Americans to the Afghan people over there. There are many like that. I will tell you, Canadians are very generous people, and I saw that both in Kandahar and throughout Canada.
We appreciate the fact that you have such positive memories of the place, Ambassador Wilkins. Thanks so much for spending some time with us tonight on TVO.
Thank you very much. I miss you guys very much, and will always fondly remember my 3.5 years there.
Thanks for saying so. All the best, sir.
Thank you.